Wattpad 101.
Are you ready?
Ooh. So let's talk, because I somehow have not before, about the absolute basics that someone would need to know before posting on Wattpad. The first thing that I'm going to mention is something that I think people get confused about a lot, which understandable. When you post to Wattpad, you still retain all the rights to your story. You can take that story down whenever you want, you can edit it whenever you want, you can go and publish it on like 50 different websites if you want, you can self-publish it, you can submit it to a publisher, you can do whatever you want with your story, even if you post it on Wattpad. You are not agreeing to anything when you post it on Wattpad. You don't have to worry about any legal issues with your story. It is your story. It doesn't matter if you've posted it on Wattpad. All right, next, let's talk about how the format of a Wattpad story differs from a traditional book. I guess the most obvious thing would be that Wattpad stories tend to update in chapters on usually like a week-by-week basis is what an author will choose to do. The chapters are basically story parts, so it doesn't have to be like a traditional chapter, but that's how most people view it. But these chapters, or story parts as they're known on Wattpad, are a lot shorter than traditional book chapters. Typically they range from 1,500 to 2,500 words, but you're free to do whatever size of a story part you want. But for readers' sake, this is generally the amount that an author will choose to do. It's a very comfortable amount for a reader to sit down and read in one sitting. That was a lot of repetition. One of the biggest perks of posting on Wattpad is that you get comments and you get feedback from people. And one of the most popular ways to comment is inline commenting, which basically means that your readers are leaving comments on a paragraph from your chapter rather than the entire chapter itself. In order to get these comments though, you're going to have to separate your paragraphs. I've seen some people not do this before, and it's just very uncomfortable for a reader to read on Wattpad. It does not really work with the formatting. So you're gonna wanna make sure that your paragraphs are separated, not only so that you can get inline comments, but just because it's the norm on Wattpad, it's what people are used to reading, and if somebody goes into your story and just sees like a big wall of text, they're probably just gonna click out. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that you can write in the Wattpad creator, and that I would not recommend doing this. The general consensus among Wattpad writers, I would say, is that the Wattpad creator is not the most reliable place to work on your story, and it makes more sense to write somewhere else first and then just copy and paste it into the editor. Although I will say that you will need to like do a run through again of your writing, because some stuff doesn't copy over, like italics don't copy sometimes, and em dashes, I don't know. Getting em dashes to work on Wattpad is so frustrating. I've given up. I don't understand why sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I just replace all my em dashes with 2 dashes instead, because it looks better than 1 dash, which sometimes the em dash turns into 1 dash, and it's very annoying. Something that is like the basic that you absolutely have to have, this is sort of a 3-in-1, title, cover, and description. If you don't have one of these things, your story is probably not gonna get clicked on. Actually, I don't even know if you're allowed to publish a story without one of those things. I think you have to have all of those. Your cover does not have to be professional, it doesn't have to be this amazing thing, but it does help if it relates to your genre and if it's, you know, appealing to the eye and not like some attack on the senses. Title, same thing. You want something that is fitting in with your genre, but also not something that has been used like 1,000 times before. And description, I have a whole video about writing descriptions. Basically, you want it to be intriguing without giving too much away. Obviously, there are exceptions to every rule, and you will come across stories that have what are, I don't really know if I believe in objectivity, but I think you could argue that some of these titles and covers and descriptions are objectively bad, but they still have like a million reads. It's gonna happen, but your chances of getting an audience are much higher if you put in the work and the effort to have something that is aesthetically pleasing and that gives off a good idea of what your story is going to be like. If your cover looks really poorly made and your title seems lazy and that kind of stuff, then readers are probably going to assume that stuff is also relevant in your writing. everybody says don't judge a book by its cover, but that's the way Wattpad works. If you have been on my channel before and you have watched any of my Wattpad videos, then you probably know that I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about next. Something that is like an unspoken Wattpad rule, but I'm here to speak about it, okay? I'm not gonna stop speaking about it. Don't self-advertise on other people's work. Don't do it. If there's one basic thing about Wattpad that you pick up from this video, let this be it. Don't go around posting on people's message boards, their activity boards, whatever the heck it's called now, like you want them to read your story, or like, oh, I'm sorry for posting, but, and then just insert a link to your work. Don't do it. Don't go in their DMs and not even say hello and just post a link to your work. Don't go in and say hello and post a link to your work. Unless it explicitly says in their bio, like, oh, feel free to ask me to read your story. Don't do it. It's impolite. I've also made a whole video about how to correctly self-advertise, like how to promote your stuff in a way that is not rude, which I feel like should just be common sense, but it's not, so I made a whole video about it. Anyways, passive aggressiveness aside, my final thing that you need to know about Wattpad, patience is key. I have said before, I know you don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. Sometimes people will catch a lucky break on Wattpad and they will post something and it will just go freaking viral and there isn't even really a rhyme or reason to it, or maybe they just are a fantastic writer and they got, you know, that lucky wind. For most of us, this is not how things go. For most of us, it takes consistency and it is slow goings and it takes a while to build an audience and it takes a while to actually see traction on your stories. I was writing on Wattpad for years before I made my current account, and on my previous account, I never got that traction. But the thing was, I wasn't consistent. So really, consistency is the key, and patience. You have to have both of those ingredients in order to really get anywhere. There's a lot of other stuff too, but I feel like when you join Wattpad, the website kind of walks you through that. And if you spend even just 10 minutes on there, like, you figure it out. If you are just starting out on Wattpad or maybe you're just thinking about starting out, totally recommend it. Lots of fun. Tomorrow's video in Wattpad Wednesday week is going to be a short all about common Wattpad misconceptions and how they are not true. I think it's gonna be a short. I might need to make it a full video, but we'll see. It might just be a short video. Okay, bye.